You're about to watch part 2 of a 2-part series. Why what?
Why you do the things you do.
Right. There you go.
Inspired.
Enjoy. So we obviously talked about a story that really marked me and as a result, our family. And I know for you that there was one that happened early on that as a result has totally changed the course of lives, including ours. Do you want to share a little bit about our guy Duve?
Yes. So for our listeners, there may be a few that have been fortunate enough to meet or have met
Duve,
the infamous Duve Vincent.
Yeah, I even have Duve Vincent tattooed on me.
Babes.
He, like years and years ago, he wrote his name in my Bible study book, and I got it tattooed on me.
So, I've been a soul searcher my whole life. You know, God would have it that I would be inspired by a young boy. I think Duve Vincent, well, he's 18 or 19 now. So
yeah, he was like 9 or 10. Yeah. He's like, I think he was like 9 years old when you met him.
Yeah, 8 or 9. We'll put him at 8 or 9. So I showed up to Haiti on a whim. You know, I had, you and I had just finished a bunch of fundraising for Haiti through Compassion International. We were kind of up on the news. And a friend of ours in town was linked up with an organization that was going down. This was almost a year later. And I just felt compelled to go. And you were giving me permission. And there I was, off to Haiti. And never anticipating and or planning being as inspired as I was on that trip. And there's so many accounts to talk about. But Duve Vincent probably takes the cake. So we'll share Duve Vincent's story.
I can't wait to hear about it. The little stinker that hasn't escaped us, and now his whole family.
Now he tells me, Dad, I'm not a little boy. I'm a man now. This is Duve Vincent speaking to me in English.
Oh goodness.
Oh guys, so I'm post earthquake. It's about a year after the earthquake. Haiti doesn't recover fast, and you know I'm seeing the remains of a school. And it's starting to get put back together. You know, USAID and FEMA. This was a massive, massive earthquake. You know, so anybody and everybody that responds to national disasters are there, and they're trying to make do with a classroom out of just plywood and tarps. You know, so if you can imagine USAID tarps, and we're there, and I'm just wide-eyed and listening as I'm going through this area about needs, and it's overwhelming. But you know me, I'm able to kind of get laser focused, and I'm trying to just think, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Thinking about all the people that we have back at home, thinking about different outlets we have to inspire people back home to jump on board to help the Haitians. And I got this little kid constantly pulling at my pant leg, and I can't shake him. I probably am there for 6-7 hours, and there's constantly this little tug. I don't know any Creole.
At that time.
And it's so
and he's always had the biggest, most beautiful smile.
Yeah.
But kind of a stinker one, you know,
always.
Always.
It was always a stinker smile.
My grandpa would have called it a crap eating grin, but wouldn't have said crap.
Yeah. My headspace is important for everybody to hear about, because I'm trying my hardest, almost like a student, to pay attention. You know, all of my attention is focused on hundreds of thousands of people that have died, and all these schools that are down and clinics that are down, and just absolute chaos. I mean, there's just chaos. So it's my brain and my spirit and everything is trying to stay focused. And I keep having what I think to be this distraction. You know, this little boy that is sure enough cute, but like, I'm not there to have my heart broke.
Yeah, you're there, Mr. Fix-It, in your mind.
Yes,
yeah.
This is.
It usually happens that way in the beginning.
This becomes like, an area where God just starts doing some work on me. And sometimes those things, they take a little time to cook and cultivate. So, to not beat the first encounter over the head, I wouldn't even have been able to tell you Duve Vincent's name. I remember him asking to take some photos with me as the group went around. He spoiled me. Sometimes you've been to Haiti enough times that a kid kind of just works the crowd. Most of them are shy. They kind of are a little more reserved. They're not quite sure what to make of us. Then there's a few that are a little bit more like aggressive and want to like, be by you or get a photo with you. But they seem to want to do that with everybody. This boy wanted to it was just like, he would push other kids away, and hold on to me. And I have to really go back to think about that first trip, because it, unfortunately for me, wasn't the significant moment. It wasn't the marking moment.
Yeah.
But anyways, that trip ends, and it's, I don't know, a couple months. I can't recall time, but you and I get a call, I think from the gal that I went on the trip with, or somebody that was on the trip
that went back,
that said, "Hey, are you Joe?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Joe." And she's like, "Well, I just went, with such and such group down to Haiti to visit this school, and a young man handed me a letter to get to you." So here is.
Do you know this about Doof, Ben?
Here's a little 8 or 9-year-old boy in the slum of all slums. I mean, that just like, what a big dreamer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
bold. He was bold with it.
As big as the world is, it wasn't so big that he didn't believe, right? Like his faith.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to give this to this lady, and she's going to somehow know Joe.
That's what I mean. I'm just trying to think of the faith of this young man. It just, when I think back on it, it blows my mind that somehow he just said, "Here's a lady that's from America, and she somehow is going to figure this out for me." So anyways, I get this letter that's written in a 8-year-old's handwriting, 9-year-old's handwriting, loose leaf paper with the fringes on the edge, just telling me his story. Like, he wasn't asking for anything. He just wanted me to know about his situation.
And he's happy for you to meet you.
Yeah,
happy to meet you.
Happy to have met me. He did share a little bit about, I remember him sharing his dad was an alcoholic and some of the stories with that. And that was kind of where my connection started. I kind of checked out of my childhood. I tried becoming a man very young, and God bless my dad. I absolutely love him, but he was an alcoholic. So I just remember thinking, man, I just want to figure out a way to be able to communicate with this kid, because I want him to know. This is like where the beginning of like that connection of like wanting to be seen and wanting to be known, because this young man, it just seemed like we had some weird connection. And I don't remember how.
You have to remind yourself of that sometimes, don't you? Because he sometimes drives you nuts.
He is a stinker. He's a stinker and a half. I don't remember, for whatever reason, I started going back to Haiti, right away. I don't remember how long it was between my first and my second trip, but there was just so much work to do. Different things had inspired me to learn more about myself. But anyways, I found myself back on a second trip. And sure enough, as soon as I made it to that school, that young boy was right back on my leg, and he was persistent. Now going all the way as far as like sitting on my foot, how like you have to drag a kid around. And Miracle was the principal at the time.
Yeah.
And he asked for a meeting. Vincent said, "I want a meeting," he started calling me Papa Joe right from the get-go. Like, he just had his mind made up what was going to happen. And he and I sat on a little curb. There was no walls or anything around the school at the time. There was just a chain link fence. And as the chaos of Cité Soleil was around us, this young man would look right at me and speak Creole, like I could understand him perfectly. And then I would hear the translation from Miracle. And he was just asking me about my family. And I was telling him about you and the kids at the time. And he was asking me why I was coming to Haiti. And finally, he just got to a question that just ripped my heart. And the question itself was profound, but it was a question that I had asked in a different way so much of my childhood. And he just looked up at me with his big brown eyes and just said, "What did you do right to be born in America? And what did I do wrong to be born here in Cité Soleil?" And I just choked up. Like, I had to excuse myself for a second from the conversation, because in this moment, I'd never heard that question phrased that way before, but it was like the question I struggled with at his age. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't have been my uncle's kids. When we start thinking about how big the world is and the why questions, like, why was I born here and why was I born to them? And I just deeply connected with him. And if you were to scroll through, the first 5 years of of trips to Haiti, they were as much to go down there to see and spend time with him as they were to do the work that we were doing. And he and I, to this day, he's a strong swimmer, but it didn't start off that way. Started off with him
trying to drown you,
literally choking me out because he was deathly afraid of water, and just got to watch him grow over the years. And for me, much like you, that inspired moment made me realize what beauty there is in letting somebody that feels unseen be seen. And it was a deep connection to my childhood, just like for you as a mom, and understanding what it was and the privileges that you have as a mom to see another mom not have those same things. It was a moment for me that was very freeing because I had realized how great of a life I had, unfortunately, because I'm looking at how even worse his life was. But in that was that connection that no one, no matter where they're born or to what circumstance they're born to, should feel like they're just unseen or that they have no hope. So what DuVincent sometimes struggles with is he wishes that we did everything that we do just for him and his family, because that's what ended up coming with DuVincent was a huge family.
Big old family.
A big old family. And no mom's tied right into that with you as far as wanting to help those women, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 women.
And one with a special needs baby.
That all need someone to live a little for them, speak a little for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Help some of their dreams come true so that they can provide for their kids. But, DuVincent inspired me to realize that DuVincent was one of many. And one of the things that came along with that was also not wanting to elevate myself. That was where God did work right away in realizing what was best for DuVincent, what was best for the kids of Haiti was for them to see their local indigenous leaders be the real heroes, because guys like me would come and go. And I think that's why you and I have always, we play a very upfront but behind the scenes role in the work that we do in Haiti. And a lot of that was because I realized I might only see DuVincent once a year, twice a year. Who he's left with is his teachers and his principals. Thinking about DuVincent and the gaps of time between me seeing him again made me realize how important it was to build up leaders in his community. Things like better than bullets, who we brought in as staff, who we poured into as staff, how we taught them the importance of going beyond just teaching them, but also mentoring them. A lot of these kids,
discipling them.
A lot of these kids, have strong homes to go home to, and 6-7 hours a day they're under our school's care. So it has only made sense for us to lift, empower, and elevate the local and indigenous leaders.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we don't always get to be there.
True story.
True story.
Even if we wanted to. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, Haiti.
He's a little sweet on DuVincent.
I love that kid. He is a stinker, but God love him. His family.
He legally
really
wants to change his last name in Haiti, just so you know.
Can he do that?
Yes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And he has asked.
I think that his dad might not like that very much.
DuVincent Rogalski. We could have Rogalski name heritage in Haiti.
Lord have mercy. No thanks. He can keep his name.
Yeah. Dazir is so much cooler.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, definitely there's things, Haiti has changed our lives in so many ways. And I think, we've just been inspired so much by the people and by their stories, and just constantly challenged to think outside of ourselves, think about how we can live our lives and give them a voice when they may not have one. And that doesn't mean that it's always easy or that we always want to keep on going.
I believe it's the opposite of easy.
I do too.
I got schooled, depending on where you grow up, where you're taught, trained, where your culture comes from, sometimes shapes the way you process life. And I was sitting in Haiti talking to a young man from Sweden, telling me about the school that he went through, only prepared him for suffering in the world of missions. That was the whole purpose of their school, was to teach, train, and prepare them for the suffering that comes along with, and I don't mean suffering like
No, I know what you mean.
But suffering
that's
meaning
smart.
like if you're going to serve those that the enemy has a grip on, those that are oppressed, those that can pass and perish for a lack of basic means, your heart is going to be troubled.
Yeah, it is.
If compassion is what draws you into there, you're already softened to that. So to see the injustice over and over, and then it becomes personal. They become your friends. They become your neighbors. It becomes hard. You have to become acquainted with suffering. Suffering becomes the way that we identify more with Christ. Like that, it's been through our suffering that, the compassion first, but then also in the suffering that I realized, wow, like what Christ did and what Christ had to go through for us. And then he tells us that we are, co-heirs in that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's not easy.
It is
Inspired things.
They're rarely easy, right? They're probably rarely easy.
They're not, but they're my favorite things to do.